Hello, hello. Let's talk about point of view. Point of view goes by many names: filter, perspective, interpretation, but essentially it's all about how your character is taking in and interpreting the world around them and the events that are going on. So it's a very important thing to master and be aware of while you're writing, because it literally changes your entire story. I feel like I say that all the time, but it will. It'll change your entire story. It will change everything about how the reader feels. And sorry, there's like little dust things. Everything about how the reader feels and engages and interacts and cares about your story. Let's break it down. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe for new educational videos every other Tuesday. I've had to adjust a little bit because I have higher demands in my writing side of everything with trying to get 2 books out. So some weeks I'm focusing more on those. So new educational videos every 2 weeks. And if you want to hear from me more, you can jump over to my Instagram. The link is in the description of this video. I have even more writing advice and content and updates and behind the scenes stuff over there. Don't forget to like this video if it is helpful to you. Without further ado, point of view. You, as the author, automatically know so much more than the reader does. There may be some things about your story and your characters and even your world that never make it into the actual book, that just stay only for you to know. And that's so beneficial and important, because when you know everything that's going on, even if the reader doesn't have to know all of it, you can still kind of masterfully, artfully incorporate stuff in. But the important part of that, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because you want to know pretty much everything you can. You want to have all of the knowledge of the creator of the story, but the character doesn't know that. The character doesn't have access to your brain and shouldn't. There's a separation there. There has to be some recognition of, oh, this character is actually only aware of this part of the story. That's where point of view comes in. So there are 3 major parts of your story that will be hugely affected by your character's point of view and how you write your character's point of view. And those are tone, description, and theme. Tone and description kind of are in the same vein. Tone is very much about how your character perceives everything, so taking it in. Description is more on the side of putting it out again, explaining it. So the tone of my room right now, like the room that I'm sitting in, I take that in and it feels cozy right now, I would say. And then to describe it to you, I would say, yeah, it's really open concept. It's like got neutral colors. It's very much grounded, stuff like that. Someone else would describe it completely differently. The tone is in how your character sees things around them. If you have 2 characters who walk into a room and one has a dark past and the other doesn't and is very happy and optimistic, they're going to see that room extremely differently. The tormented person might look for exit points or potential threats. The optimistic person might look for friends to make or fun things to do. Similarly, if you have an artist and a scientist walk into the same room, the scientist is going to pick up on different things than the artist would. Like, the scientist will probably see more detail and more in-depth stuff, and the artist will probably really interpret it. So, you have the more logical and the more emotional. So along with that is description. And what I mean by this is that the scientist and the artist are going to use different words and even different methods and metaphors and stories or stuff like that to describe what they have seen or felt. Say you have 2 cheerful, optimistic people that walk in a room, and one is just more detail-oriented. They're going to describe the room differently. The one is going to look for details and the other will not. So tone is all about the vibe of how they feel things and how the things around them are perceived. And description is all about the way they convey that. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. There's no one here to say that it makes sense. So I hope it makes sense. So those kind of go hand in hand. And along with that is just style in general. The characters' styles will be different, but your style as an author should and will change with every character. Yes, you are also a person with your own ideas and thoughts and behaviors and past and things that are going to incorporate into your stories automatically. But even though who you are is a part of it, your style as an author will still change with your character. I don't personally have one fixed writing style. I'm writing 2 books right now. One is a action adventure sci-fi in first person present tense because it's immediate, it's fast, it's urgent. And this character is the same way. She's very action oriented. She's very fast moving, fast paced. She's very like direct and to the point. All those things that lend themselves to being a first person present tense story. But then in my dark fantasy novella, I have a lot more characters that are kind of flowery and like to, as I roll my eyes, like to describe things more. And it's also a slower paced story. It's more of like a underlying slow burn tension. And so they're completely different tenses, points of view, styles of story. My style as an author is extremely different between the two stories. That's normal. So allow your character's point of view and voice, which a lot of this intersects with character voice, and the more I'm talking, the more I realize that. So I will be making a video on character voice soon, but a lot of this stuff intersects with character voice, and your character's voice is not your voice. So let your style as an author be somewhat affected by... Come here. Come here. My dog's acting up. Hi, do you want to be in the video for a minute? Come here. Let yourself, your own style as an author. Hey, say hi. You want to go? Okay, love you. Let yourself as an author be influenced to some extent. And lastly, point of view will change the theme. Every single character has something different to learn. We went over this in the story circle video. You can find that right here. We talked about want versus need. So your character starts out wanting something and they think that this want is going to fix their problem, and they end up learning that they actually need something else. And the true solution to their problem isn't what they wanted, it's what they needed. Your character's wants and needs and problems that create those wants and needs are going to be so different based on point of view. So everything about the theme is going to change based on the point of view. The entire theme might change, or just pieces of it. You might have two characters grappling with the concept of trust, but they're coming at it from different angles, right? And the theme might be the same. The theme might be it's okay to trust people for both of them, but they're still approaching it from different places. So now that we've talked about the different pieces and elements of your story that are going to be super affected by point of view, I want to give you a few tips on really making your point of view pop, like making it magical. There's something so fun about filming a YouTube video at 1 a.m. I should do it more. It's like just so calm and quiet and peaceful, and there's no lawnmower man to come mow the lawn and for me to hear through my AC unit. Because that's happened for like the past 3 or 4 filming sessions I've had, is there's this lawnmower guy outside. He just comes at the most random times. Anyway, so tips for point of view. Number 1, think about what your character can actually see or hear or feel or know or understand. Like actually, your character's not you. In D&D, I always reference D&D. There's such thing as like a perception check where you walk into a room and you're like, okay, I'm gonna roll for perception. And you say you roll a 2 and you can get up to 20. So 2's not good at all. You're gonna see much less if you roll a 2 versus if you roll a 16 or 17 or 20. So where is your character at on that scale? How perceptive are they? How much of the room do they actually see or notice? Do they have other things pulling their attention away, like things going on in life that make them less observant? Or my sci-fi character is very independent to a fault, and she doesn't want to get close to people. So she automatically just notices less about people and cares less about people and doesn't pay attention to what's going on with them or what they're doing because she doesn't want to. So she's going to automatically know and perceive and understand much less about the people around her than the other characters. So don't just let your character mind read or automatically know things. Have them piece it together. Have them think through it. Show us that thought process. Along the same vein is your characters don't know what other characters are thinking. So they can interpret people's like facial expressions or tones of voice and stuff like that. Or they can say, like they can talk about how those people's whatever makes them feel, but they don't truly know what's going on. If your character is assuming all the things about different characters, make it a personality trait. Make it a habit. Like, make it clear that this character just does that. They just, like, automatically think they know things about the people around them. Because they don't. Okay, tip 2 is to use perception. So every character is going to perceive the same situation in different ways, right? We've touched on this a little bit. It's kind of the same concept, but we're gonna go a little bit deeper. A couple examples are going to the store, going to get food, moving to a different state or city. What different things are they going to look for and care about in those situations? That will change, like, a lot. But even more than that, even more than just what they're thinking about or what they need or want, is the fact that they don't see the story objectively. I have something about this on my Instagram, and it's about BoJack Horseman. I love BoJack Horseman. That show is amazing. One of the best things that it does is using point of view. We're deep in the perception of BoJack Horseman, who is depressed and who has trauma. And so he's stuck in this loop of things are awful, when really, if you take a step back, if you look at it from other people, other characters, or even from yourself, it's like, oh, this isn't like actually that bad. But to BoJack it is, because he's seeing it in context of everything he's been through and context of everything that's going on in his head. So that's if you want a really powerful example on something like this. BoJack Horseman is a great watch. You can also go check out that Instagram video because I talk about it more there. But basically, every single thing that happens in the story is going to filter through your character's perspective. And when this is crafted well, your reader won't separate from it. Your reader will think it's them. Like, wow, this is so stressful, or this is so upsetting, or oh my gosh, things just aren't getting better. Like I did with BoJack Horseman. I was like, wow, things are really rough for this character. They use perception so well that you have to actively separate yourself. And if you don't realize that, or don't actively work to say, hey, there's a differentiation here, there's a separation between us, it's this level of understanding and empathy that's very magical when it happens between reader and character. Essentially, when the point of view is so deep that there's like no separation between character and audience, that is when true empathy is achieved. You're actually implanting your reader into everything that's happening, and they feel so much more connected to the story and so much more connected to the character, and therefore they feel emotions. They are participating in the story because they are close to the character. That brings us to point 3, which is to think deep. Always think deep. The term deep point of view is often used just for like first person. They'll say like first person deep, where it's just like one person the entire time and you're very seated in everything that they are and feel and think and do. And that's true, but it should also be used for every other point of view. Third person deep, second person deep, third person omniscient deep. First person is one person perceiving and then narrating the story, right? We're following this one character in I and me terms. Third person close is still one person narrating the story. It's just that person is no longer I and me. That person is now they and them, she and her, he and him. You're just using different words, but you're still in one person's head. For this to work, don't head hop. You may have 3 characters in one scene and they may all be in third person, so he, she, they, but only one should be narrating. When you start to head hop, it gets very disorienting and hard to follow, and it's because you're pulled out of that deep point of view place, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, who am I with? What are they feeling? You have to get all like in touch with everything that's going on again. And that's really not the reader's job. So if the reader is having to do that work, it means that there's probably something the author could do to make it a little bit easier on them, which is to keep the reader in one character for the entire scene or chapter. Third person omniscient. Congratulations, your point of view character is now the narrator. Your narrator is the same as every other character, except they're just perceiving and narrating other characters. Other point of view characters would be talking about their own stuff that they're going through. Narrators are going to be commenting on someone else. They will have their own way of explaining and talking about the events and the people in the events. They are still a person with a filter and an interpretation. Think Lemony Snicket, okay? A Series of Unfortunate Events is a great example of using a narrator. And so is The Book Thief, because the narrator is death. Such a cool opportunity to use point of view in such a different way. They will have their own opinions of other characters. They will have their own opinions of stuff that is going on. And the narrator might be you. You don't have to label or name or introduce the narrator. They don't even have to be seen in the story or mentioned in the story. But that doesn't change the fact that they are narrating the story. So style, tone, description, theme, what things mean, all of it is still going to change. Use this to your advantage, because a narrator is a really cool and unique tool that can set your story apart so much. Take advantage of that. Don't just toss your narrator out there and then just leave it sitting. That's an awesome opportunity to really twist point of view in a unique way that we don't see very often to create a super original and new feeling story. So that's all my advice for point of view. As a quick overview, point of view will change tone, description, and theme in your story. No matter if the situation stays the same or the theme stays the same, interpretations and meanings will still change based on character. To improve your point of view and pull your readers even deeper into your story, make sure that you are considering what your character is actually seeing, thinking, hearing, feeling, knowing, understanding, etc. If you have a character who's 6 years old, like in To Kill a Mockingbird, a scout does not understand the amount of things that Atticus does. Take that into account. Use perception. Again, people are going to perceive the same exact things very differently. So think about how their past and their genetics and their brain and their psychology is all playing into the way that they are acting and seeing and understanding the world around them. And lastly, always think deep. There's no such thing as this zoomed out perspective. Well, there is, but I don't think there should be, because the really, really, really deep point of view, no matter what point of view it's actually in or what tense it's in, that really deep point of view is what's going to bring your reader so much closer and make them feel so much more. And it's going to just the magic that I talk about in writing comes from this. Without deep point of view and characters that we really, really know and care about, it doesn't happen. Writing's not magical. It just kind of is. So think deep. Allow your characters to be all-encompassing and surrounding, and allow your readers to get engrossed in that. They will love it. I promise. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I will see you next time. Happy trails.